The Scalaran cruiser hung over the Earth shipyard like a polished blade, its silver hull a silent insult to the rusting gantries below. Engineer Lord Valon Threx led the delegation past the human work crews, his bulging white-yellow eyes cataloging every crude weld and exposed conduit with theatrical disdain.
This is how they seal a pressure vessel, with splattered metal and hope.
Robert Mercer kept his wrench moving, a piece of gum clamped between his teeth. He didn't even glance up.
Reactor housings that would embarrass a hatchling. This is not engineering, this is survival instinct with a welding certificate.
The Scalaran entourage laughed on cue, a cascade of alien amusement that echoed through the dry dock.
Look at this weld. It's practically crying for a grinder. If your species spent less time making plans for war, maybe you could learn to make a straight seam.
Seals holding. That's what matters.
The tour ended as it began, with the Scalaran delegation retreating to their gleaming cruiser, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone and the sting of collective humiliation. Robert simply wiped the grease from his hands and picked up a fresh packet of gum. Whatever the galaxy thought of human engineering, his part of the ship was airtight. The break room simmered with wounded pride. The crew hunched over coffee, the sting of Valen's words still ringing. All eyes flicked to Robert as he unwrapped a fresh stick of gum.
Let him laugh. A weld that holds is better than a ship that cracks.
He clocked out without a word, the sun already dipping below the hangars. The F-150's engine coughed to life on the second try.
Just keep running, old girl. One more paycheck, and I'll get that new starter.
The garage door screeched open, revealing the real project, a 2014 F-Next-to-Rend 150, with its engine bay stripped down to the block.
She's gonna purr by the weekend. Just need to seat the new camshaft and button up the timing chain.
He slid under the chassis with a work light clamped to the frame, the rest of the galaxy forgotten. On the workbench, a faded photo of his father beside an old Mustang. The man had taught him that a real mechanic fixes things with what he's got.
Dad would have gotten a kick out of those aliens. Probably would have challenged him to a rebuild race.
Somewhere out there, the Scalaran delegation was filing their report, smug in their superiority. Robert tightened a motor mount and smiled in the dark. A few days later, a young apprentice vented his frustration over a crate of old regulators. Robert listened without a word.
They're old, kid, but they still hold pressure. That's what matters.
The apprentice opened his mouth, something about Scalaran standards, but Robert waved him off.
Scalaran build for show. We build to keep flying. That's the difference.
He set down his mug and walked out. The break room fell silent. That night, he stood on the porch, the sky clear and cold in the desert air.
Childlike, they called our work. Childlike, because we got the job done with half the fancy parts. If the galaxy saw that as weakness, then maybe they'd never understand what real strength looked like.
3 weeks later, the truck's engine roared to life on the first crank. Robert allowed himself a rare grin.
Weekend drive first. Then, back to the grind. Whatever the galaxy threw at him next, he'd handle it.
In low orbit, the Scalaran flagship Ascendant joined the human cruiser Resolute. Robert watched from the maintenance bay, toolkit ready. Through the viewport, Valon stood on the observation deck, same condescending glare he'd worn at the shipyard. On the Resolute's command center monitor, Colonel Ives addressed the maintenance team, her voice sharp.
The Scalaran are here to monitor, not to collaborate. Keep your distance, and do not offer assistance unless authorized.
Fine by me. I didn't take this post for diplomacy.
The memory of the shipyard tour still stung. The Scalaran ship had hovered just as arrogantly over those rusting cranes. Then the klaxons blared. The Resolute's AI cut through the red alert strobes. Distress signal from Ascendant. Critical antimatter containment failure. Stand by for emergency orders.
Antimatter containment failure. That's not a drill. That's a countdown to nothing.
Silence. Robert kept his eyes on the Scalaran ship, now pulsing with crimson warning lights. A silent countdown ticking. On the bridge of the Ascendant, Engineer Lord Valon Threx was screaming, his silver uniform soaked with sweat. The antimatter regulator had begun to sing its death keel.
Dry dock? We need a part from 4 jumps away. The core will breach in 11 minutes.
His team scrambled, rerouting power, flushing coolant. Nothing worked. The regulator's housing glowed cherry red. Aboard the Resolute, Colonel Ives's console lit up with a priority override from Joint Command. Her jaw tightened.
They're requesting a human observer. Mercer. He's the nearest engineer with clearance.
She hesitated, then keyed the intercom. The order left a bitter taste. She found Robert in the maintenance bay, already packing his toolkit. He looked up without surprise.
Listen to me. They want your eyes, not your hands. Do not intervene unless explicitly asked. Understand?
Look, don't touch. That's like asking a mechanic to watch an engine seize.
The shuttle ride to the Ascendant was a tense 5 minutes. Through the porthole, the flagship's lights flickered like a dying heartbeat. The Ascendant's docking bay gleamed cold and sterile. Valon stood flanked by engineers, arms crossed, fangs bared as the human shuttle opened.
What is that creature doing on my ship?
He's here to observe, per Joint Command. We are not your enemies today, Engineer Lord.
Robert didn't wait for permission. He followed the dying hum straight to engineering, past the alien's silent sneers. The regulator dominated the bay, a wounded god leaking blue plasma from a hairline crack everyone had dismissed.
That's no cosmetic crack. That's thermal stress from an expansion differential.
Don't waste your time, human. This failure is beyond your species' understanding.
Your regulator's trying to expand, but the housing won't let it. What's the coefficient mismatch?
The timer ticked down, 9 minutes, 14 seconds. Valon's silence was answer enough, but Robert was still just an observer. He stepped back, waiting and hoping they'd ask before 6 minutes were left. An engineer grabbed a coolant bypass key. Jamming it into the override with shaking hands, the ship screamed a warning. Then the regulator vented a jet of plasma across the ceiling.
You've got a leak, not a core breach. Seal it now, or it becomes one.
Seal it with what? Your sweat? Stand back, human. This is not your jurisdiction.
The timer read 7:02. The crack had doubled, and the plasma leak was howling.
They'd let the ship burn before admitting a human could fix it.
Vailon pointed a trembling finger. Stay. In this corner. 2 guards stepped forward. The Skelleran engineers devolved into shouting, each proposal more desperate than the last.
They'll come to me. They have to. The alternative is nothing.
6 minutes. Robert watched the crack widen and waited for their arrogance to crack first. The bridge view screen flickered with a priority override. High Command seal burned white-hot on the display. Ascendant. This is the Council. No relief fleet can reach you. Abandon ship while you still can.
Abandon? With the containment field destabilizing, the escape pods won't launch. We're already dead.
In the chaos, Colonel Ives slipped through the cordon to Robert's corner. Her voice was a tight whisper.
They're dead either way, Mercer. If you've got something, now's the time. I'll cover you.
His mind flashed to the truck. The old toolbox on the seat. Dad's voice. A fix is a fix. Engineer Lord, I need you to listen. I can seal that leak right now with what I've got.
With what? Your primitive adhesives. The Council already declared us dead.
Then you've got nothing to lose. Give me 5 minutes. If I fail, you're no worse off.
Valon's gaze flicked to the timer. 5 minutes, 43 seconds. His nod was barely a twitch. With a tremor of finality, Valon straightened. His voice cut through the alarms.
You have 5 minutes, human. If you make one mistake, I will personally see you executed for sabotage.
Robert knelt without a word, flipped open his greased-stained kit. The Skelleran engineers recoiled as they saw the contents.
This pressure-rated adhesive. Better than your fancy sealant when you need speed. And this is for temperature, chewing gum, cinnamon, my own recipe.
The Skelleran engineers exchanged glances of sheer horror. This was not protocol, it was heresy.
You cannot be serious. Those materials have no place in an antimatter field.
5 minutes. Just like that blown oil pan on the 150. Plenty of time.
He tore a strip of tape with his teeth, the snap echoing in the silence. The timer hit 5 minutes exactly as he turned to the regulator. the duct tape gleaming under the alien light. Robert pressed the first strip over the widest crack, smoothing the silver tape with deliberate pressure. The hiss of plasma dimmed.
One down. Just need to lap it right, like wrapping a header pipe.
He added a second layer, then a third. For a breath, the regulator held. Then a second crack opened with a shriek. Blue plasma sprayed from a hairline fissure near the joint, exactly where expansion stress was highest. The temperature gauge spiked into the red. Robert's eyes didn't leave the readout.
Missed that. Thermal expansion joint. Need a seal that can flex.
He pulled the gum from its wrapper and pushed it between his teeth. The cinnamon was sharp and familiar.
You are eating a confectionery while my ship burns.
I'm making a sealant. Cinnamon works best. Stays pliable up to 600 degrees.
The timer ticked to 4 minutes. Robert kept chewing, his gaze fixed on the fissure. The bypass attempt had fried a relay bundle. Cables arced wildly against the housing, feeding chaos into the field.
Those arcs will destabilize everything. Need to tie these down.
He slid a zip tie from the kit, looped it around the sparking cluster, and pulled the tail with his teeth until it locked. The arcing stopped. The field steadied. Then Robert spat the gum into his palm and knelt before the second crack. He pressed the warm wad into the fissure. The blue plasma flickered, then darkened as the gum spread into the gap. The regulator's shriek dropped to a low hum. The tape held. The gum flexed, the zip tie braced. For a breath, the room was silent. The timer still counted, 3 minutes, 47 seconds. But the red warning runes along the housing began to flicker amber.
Impossible. The seal is temporary, but it's holding.
The Skelleran engineers stood frozen, their mouths agape. None could reconcile the sight. A human had silenced their dying god with confectionery.
It's a band-aid, not a cure. But it'll buy them time to get to dry dock.
The clock bled away the final minutes. Then the ship's AI broke the silence with a tone that hadn't sounded in hours. Routine status. Containment. Field restored to 90%. Destruct sequence can be terminated by engineering authority.
Override it. I've done my part. The seal will hold long enough to get you home.
Vaylon's hand trembled above the console. Accepting the patch meant admitting a human's primitive materials had outdone his caste.
Engineering Lord Vaylon, authority override. Cancel destruct sequence.
The alarms died. The red lighting bled to calm blue. For the first time in 11 minutes, there was silence. Robert pulled a stained rag from his pocket and wiped the gum residue from his fingers as if he'd just changed a spark plug. The Skellerand engineers still hadn't moved, their minds refusing to accept the evidence before their eyes.
She'll need a real repair in dry dock. But you already knew that.
The immediate crisis was over, but the political fallout from this illegal engineering was only beginning to crystallize.
Told you they'd figure it out eventually.
Colonel Ives gave a tight nod. Her eyes held the same disbelief as the aliens, but she kept her voice level. A junior Skellerand engineer extended a trembling spectral analyzer toward the gum patch. The readout flickered, then displayed an impossible result. Organic polymer hardened to near metallic density by the thermal reaction.
This shouldn't work, yet it does. This is not engineering. This is barbaric, but it worked.
Robert just shrugged and picked up his toolkit. Vaylon's engineer mind, trained on purity, could not deny the elegance of the hack, the tape as pressure seal, the gum as pliable thermal insert, the zip tie as structural brace. Robert turned toward the exit, leaving the Skelleran engineers to stare at the impossible patch. The junior engineer looked from the analyzer to Engineer Lord Vaylon, but the Lord had no answers. The engineering bay remained frozen long after Robert left the room. The patch held, but the wound to Skelleran pride was just beginning to bleed. On the Resolute's bridge, Colonel Ives regarded Robert with an expression she usually reserved for first contacts.
You just made Earth look like gods of improvisation. That's going to ruffle feathers across the sector.
Feathers are temporary. A blown antimatter core is permanent.
She handed him a datapad, the post-incident form already flagged with a Joint Command priority seal.
They won't thank you, Mercer. The Skelleran will file a complaint before they admit you saved them.
Let them file. A complaint on paper beats a funeral in space.
He picked up his toolkit and walked toward the docking bay. The shuttle to Earth was boarding. A few hours later, Robert clocked in at the shipyard. The familiar stench of metal and oil was grounding.
Good to be home. The truck needs that new camshaft this weekend.
He picked up his usual wrench from the tool locker and headed for the hangar. The Galaxy's politics could wait. 2 days later, a coworker thrust a datapad under Robert's nose just as he picked up his wrench. The break room feed blared. Skeleran Council deems tape and gum fix unacceptable ingestible engineering practice. Robert scrolled. The complaint listed 3 items from his kit as prohibited substances: adhesive strips, polymeric ties, and masticating sealant.
Masticating sealant. They gave chewing gum a name that sounded almost dangerous. It's chewing gum, not sealant. Cinnamon. And it held at 600 degrees.
He laughed so hard he nearly choked on his own gum.
Never thought a stick of gum could scare an entire alien fleet. They'd faint at duct tape.
By evening, the leaked memo and the 9-minute fix footage made him a legend. Memes sprouted overnight. The Galaxy watched a grease-stained human outdo the engineer cast with tape and gum. Robert's face was everywhere. He just kept wrenching. The complaint only made the story bigger. In the Skeleran Council chamber, engineer Lord Valon faced a riot of voices. Holograms of the human's tools rotated accusingly above the polished stone table.
We cannot allow this innovation to become standard. It undermines centuries of protocol and threatens the authority of the engineer caste.
A junior engineer broke the silence, citing the gum's transformation into a metallic seal under plasma heat. Valon's glare silenced him.
The human's adhesive is a fluke, not a foundation. We will not lower our standards to mimic a primitive.
The chamber erupted again. The cast was torn between centuries of rigid protocol and the cold, undeniable evidence of a patch that had held antimatter at bay. Hours later, in a junior engineer's quiet quarters, a terminal flickered with an unauthorized shipment order. Silver tape, 50 rolls. Urgent delivery to Engineering Section 7. The engineer glanced at the door, then pressed the confirm key with a trembling finger. Somewhere in the Skeleran fleet, the first roll of human-engineered adhesive was about to become standard kit. The seed was planted. The Galaxy's most rigid engineering cast was beginning to bend, one strip of tape at a time, and they didn't even know it yet. That evening, Colonel Ives found Robert in his garage, up to his elbows in the Ford's engine compartment.
The Skeleran fleet wants you, Robert, Senior Emergency Systems Consultant. Your own lab, full benefits, unlimited chewing gum budget.
Unlimited gum? That's almost tempting. What's the catch?
No catch. They're ignoring their own complaint. They want you to teach them how to fix things with any material available.
The hologram displayed salary digits longer than his truck's mileage, a rank equivalent to Valen's.
They hated my methods. Now they want to pay me for them. Galaxy's got a sense of humor after all. Give me a day, Colonel. I need to think.
After she left, the garage fell silent. Robert slid back under the F-95 150, the creeper's wheels squeaking.
They want me to fix ships, but this truck's been waiting for a new camshaft all month.
The decision sat heavy in the grease-stained air. The offer was everything he never wanted, and his answer was already forming. The next morning, Robert sat in his garage, the F-150's engine parts laid out on a tarp. He picked up the datapad.
I appreciate the offer, but my truck needs a new camshaft this weekend. I am good.
He hit send and turned back to the engine. The reply left the garage before the sun climbed the wall. Within the hour, the message leaked. By noon, every terminal on the shipyard showed Robert's rejection. In the Skeleran Council chamber, Valon stared at the projection of a human declining a fleet commission.
He prefers a wheeled vehicle.
The phrase became the headline on every human network. Memes sprouted before the second coffee break.
Camshaft's almost in. Just need to torque the bolts, and she'll purr again.
The universe hummed on. A man who could save an antimatter core had decided a Saturday in his garage was worth more than a fleet commission. The story ended as it began. A mechanic, a wrench, and a job that needed doing. The following Saturday, Robert was back under the truck. The garage smelled of oil and the old radio crackled a country tune. He torqued the camshaft bolts to spec, double-checked the timing chain, and filled the radiator with fresh coolant. The battery terminals tightened with a satisfying click. He wiped his hands and slid behind the wheel.
This is it. After all that, this is the only moment that matters.
Then he turned the key. The starter whined once, twice, and the V8 caught with a thunderous roar that shook the garage walls.
Still got it.
The engine settled into a steady idle. He revved it twice, listening to the perfect rhythm. Exhaust rumbled out the open garage door. The old Ford was alive again, and the sound echoed down the quiet street.
Camshafts in. Timing's right. She's ready for the highway.
He let the engine hum, leaning back in the seat, the vibrations traveling through his bones. The Galaxy could wait. A leaked security vid showed a Skeleran delegation in a human hardware store, their silver uniforms stark against the orange sale signs. They purchased 50 rolls of duct tape, a gross of zip ties, and a carton of cinnamon gum. The same team later visited a small-town garage, taking notes while a mechanic rebuilt a carburetor.
They're finally learning. Fixing ain't about the parts. It's about the mindset.
That evening, at his workbench, Robert opened a message from a Skeleran engineer.
Your tape saved my life today. I keep one in my tool belt now.
He nodded, folded the note, and tucked it into the lid of his grease-stained toolbox.
One down. A few thousand more to go.
The Galaxy's most rigid engineering cast had turned a corner. One roll of tape at a time, Robert tightened the last bolt on the valve cover. The road calling and the old Ford ready to answer. Evening settled over the garage. Robert sat on the tailgate, the truck's paint still warm from the drive. He popped the cap off a beer with the edge of his wrench, the sound sharp and clean. Overhead, a distant Skeleran trade vessel cut across the amber sky, silent as a star. He took a long drink and sighed, the day's work settling into his bones.
Best part, it still runs.
The engine was silent now, but the memory of its rumble hung in the air. The old Ford sat polished and ready, every bolt torqued by a hand that had once saved a Galaxy. He watched the last light fade, the first stars piercing the deep blue. The wrench hung from his belt like an old friend, and in the silence, the hum of the universe seemed to nod in agreement. The dashboard glowed a soft amber in the dark. The old V8's idle was a steady, reassuring rumble. A well-worn wrench hung from the rear-view mirror, swinging gently with the truck's heartbeat. Some engineers build machines, others build legends. Out on the blacktop, the Ford's headlights carved a path through the night, solitary and sure. The taillights traced a gentle curve, then faded like a pair of dying embers. Robert leaned back, one hand on the wheel, a faint smile as he remembered the gum still in his pocket. He'd saved an alien flagship, but tonight, the only mission was the road. The stars above watched in silence as the pickup rolled toward the horizon. In the distance, a Skeleran ship blinked once, then vanished as if nodding. The road remained, and the legend of the mechanic who fixed everything with tape and gum became eternal.